Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. Today we are going super deep into the core of so much of what makes our digital world tick.
That's right. We're talking about something that happens every time you hit Ctrl plus F to find a word. Or every time Google magically surfaces the exact web page you were thinking of.
It all comes down to algorithms, string matching algorithms.
We're going to unravel the mystery behind these algorithms, see how they efficiently find a specific sequence of characters within a much larger text.
And we're talking about starting with the simplest approach and then building up to some really elegant and clever solutions.
Our mission today is to understand the core ideas and trade-offs behind the most important string matching algorithms out there.
So we're talking patterns in texts, right? Like searching for a needle in a haystack.
Yeah, exactly. You've got a pattern which could be any sequence of characters, like a word or a phrase. And then you've got this larger text, which could be a whole document, a book, even a DNA sequence, anything you can represent as a string.
So what's the most basic way to find a pattern in a text? The kind of thing you might do if you were doing it manually.
Well, you'd probably start at the beginning of the text and compare your pattern character by character.
Right. Makes sense.
If it matches, great, you found an instance. Then you shift the pattern over by one position and repeat the whole process.
I can see how that would work. But it seems like you'd end up doing the same comparisons over and over again.
Exactly. And that's the problem with this naive approach. It's simple to understand, but it can be incredibly inefficient, especially when you're dealing with huge texts and maybe even long patterns.
So like if you were searching for the pattern AAAB in a text full of A's.
Exactly. You'd keep matching the first four A's only to realize that the B doesn't fit at the end. And you'd have to repeat that for almost every position in the text.
So how do we make this process smarter? How do we get rid of all those unnecessary comparisons?
Well, that's where things get interesting. One really clever approach uses an idea from a seemingly unrelated field, number theory.
Number theory for finding strings.
Yep. The Rabin-Karp algorithm uses a technique called hashing to speed things up. Think of it as assigning a unique numerical fingerprint to each string.
Okay, so instead of comparing the whole strings every time we compare these shorter fingerprints.
You got it. We first compute the hash value of our pattern. Then we slide a window of the same length across the text, calculating the hash value for each little chunk.
And if the hash values match.
Then there's a good chance we found a real match. We just need to double check to be absolutely sure because two different strings can sometimes have the same hash value.
Like a false positive?
Exactly. It's called a collision, and it's something we need to be aware of. But the beauty of Rabin-Karp is that it uses a rolling hash technique. This means we don't have to recompute the entire hash for each window. We can quickly update the hash value as we shift the window.
So we're kind of sliding and updating the hash on the fly.
You got it. And in practice, on average, this makes Rabin-Karp a lot faster than the naive approach, especially if we choose our hash function and some other parameters carefully.
So we've seen how to use hashing to speed things up. What are some other ways to tackle string matching?
Well, there's a whole different paradigm that involves something called finite automata.
Automata, like little robots searching through the text.
Sort of. You can think of a finite automaton as a little machine with a finite number of states. It starts in a special start state, and then as it reads characters from the text, it transitions between these states according to specific rules.
So we can design this machine to recognize our pattern.
Exactly. And the amazing thing is once this automaton is built, it can scan through the entire text in a single pass, processing each character only once.
So we only need to look at each character one time. That sounds super efficient.
It is. The matching phase takes time that's proportional to the length of the text, what we call dollar time, which is as good as it gets.
There's got to be a catch rate.
Well, the trade-off is in the setup. Building this specialized automaton for a pattern of length dollar can take a while, especially if we have a large alphabet of possible characters.
So the time we save in searching, we might pay up front in building this complex machine.
Exactly. It's a classic trade-off in computer science, pre-processing time versus matching time. But the automaton approach is incredibly powerful when you need to perform many searches on the same text because you only have to build the automaton once.
Okay, so let's talk about this automaton a little more. How does it actually work? How do we design it to recognize a specific pattern?
Well, it's all about states and transitions. Let's say our pattern has length dollars. We can create an automaton with 1 over plus DUN states numbered from 0 to dollars.
So each state represents a certain number of characters matched.
Yeah, you can think of it that way. State 0 is our starting point, and state dollars is the accepting state. If the automaton ends up in state of dollars after reading a portion of the text, it means it's found the entire pattern.
And how do we figure out the transitions between these states?
That's where the suffix function comes in. It's a function that for any string tells us what's the longest prefix of our pattern that's also a suffix of that string.
So it's like finding the biggest overlap between the pattern and what we've read so far.
Exactly. And the transitions in the automaton are defined based on this suffix function. So if the automaton is in a certain state and it reads a new character, it uses the suffix function to determine the next state.
So the automaton is always keeping track of the longest prefix of the pattern that it's seen so far.
That's it. And when it reaches the accepting state, we know we've found a complete match.
This whole automaton concept is pretty mind-blowing, but it sounds like it really works.
It does, and it's a beautiful example of how theoretical computer science ideas can lead to practical and incredibly efficient algorithms.
So we've seen Rabin-Karp, which uses hashing, and now this finite automaton approach. Are there any other linear time algorithms for string matching?
There is one more that's really elegant. It's called the Knuth-Morris-Pratt algorithm, or KMP for short, and it manages to achieve linear time without explicitly building an automaton.
How does it pull that off?
The key insight is to learn from the mismatches. Remember, in the naive approach, when we had a mismatch, we just shifted the pattern by one and started over.
Yeah, we talked about how that can be really wasteful.
Well, KMP is much smarter. It pre-computes a special function called the prefix function for the pattern.
What does this prefix function tell us?
It tells us, for every position in the pattern, what's the longest prefix of the pattern that is also a suffix up to that position. It's kind of like finding internal matches within the pattern itself.
Okay, so it's looking for repetitions or symmetries within the pattern.
Yeah, you can think of it that way. And when we have a mismatch, KMP uses this prefix function to determine the optimal shift. It tells us how we can safely move the pattern forward without missing any potential matches.
So instead of blindly shifting by one, it jumps ahead based on what it already knows about the pattern.
Exactly. And the beauty is that this prefix function can be computed in time proportional to the length of the pattern. And once we have it, the KMP algorithm can scan through the text in linear time.
Wow, so it's as fast as the automaton approach, but without having to build this whole complex machine up front.
Precisely. KMP is a really elegant solution that leverages the internal structure of the pattern to make the search super efficient. And it's actually closely related to the idea of the suffix function that we used for the automaton.
It seems like there are some really deep connections between all these different approaches.
There definitely are, and understanding those connections can give you a much deeper appreciation for the beauty and power of algorithms.
So we've covered a lot of ground with these algorithms, but there's one more technique we wanted to explore, something called suffix arrays. What are those all about?
Suffix arrays offer a totally different perspective. Instead of focusing on the pattern, they create an index of the text itself. It's like pre-processing the text to make searching blazing fast.
Interesting. So how does that work?
A suffix array is basically a sorted list of all the suffixes of our text arranged alphabetically.
So if our text is banana, we would list all the suffixes like banana, anana, and so on in alphabetical order.
Exactly. And the suffix array would store the starting positions of those sorted suffixes.
Okay, so we have this index of all the endings of the text. How does that help us find a specific pattern?
Well, since the suffixes are sorted, we can use super efficient search algorithms like binary search to locate our pattern.
So we don't have to scan through the whole text anymore?
Nope. We just search the suffix array, which is much smaller and already sorted. It's like looking up a word in a dictionary.
So the suffix array acts like a pre-computed index for our text.
Exactly. And once we have it, searching becomes extremely fast, especially if we need to do many searches on the same text.
And how do we actually build this suffix array? It sounds like a pretty complex sorting task.
There are various algorithms for that. Some take time proportional to $1, where $1 is the length of the text.
And those are based on comparing the suffixes and sorting them right.
Right. And there are even more sophisticated algorithms that can build the suffix array in linear time.
You also mentioned something called an LCP array. What's that all about?
Yeah, the LCP array stands for longest common prefix. It stores the length of the longest common prefix between each pair adjacent suffixes in the sorted suffix array.
So it's like an extra layer of information on top of the suffix array.
Exactly. And it's really useful for optimizing certain operations on suffix arrays, like finding the longest repeated substring in a text.
So suffix arrays are a powerful tool not just for basic pattern matching, but for lots of different string analysis tasks.
Absolutely. They're used extensively in bioinformatics, for example, for analyzing DNA sequences. And they're a cornerstone of many text processing applications.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive into the world of string matching algorithms. We've covered a lot of ground today.
We've gone from the simple, naive approach to sophisticated techniques like hashing automata prefix functions and suffix arrays,
It's amazing to see how all these seemingly different ideas are actually interconnected.
and how they all contribute to solving this fundamental problem of finding patterns in text.
It really makes you appreciate the ingenuity of computer scientists and the power of algorithms.
And it shows how these algorithms are essential for so much of what we do online and in our digital lives.
I mean, we've talked about searching documents and web pages, but these techniques are also crucial for bioinformatics, plagiarism detection, network security, and so much more.
It's all about finding patterns efficiently in vast amounts of data.
So the next time you search for something online or hit Shiral plus F in a document, remember all the amazing algorithms that are working behind the scenes to make it happen.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you learned something new and exciting.
Until our next exploration, keep wondering about how things work.